Kia ora. Ko Monique Bradley tōku ingoa he kai kōrero aho. I am Monique Bradley and I am a storyteller. I like to identify as neurofabulous. So this has been an ongoing journey for me for the last few years. There's Pete, by the way, if you can see him peeking around the corner of the camera, just making sure I've got all my tech right. I also, for my pronouns, while I physically am a she, her, I also like to identify as an I, we, because I was born with a million words inside my body, and I've always used those words to connect with everybody. I've always had this strange sensation that I'm a part of everything, and everything is a part of me. And throughout today's session, we're going to do things both energetically, educationally, and physically to really connect more deeply. That was one of the things that was a focus for today, is looking at how we connect in really beautiful and unique ways in a safe space, and also have a little bit of fun at the same time. How does it sound? Does it sound kapai? Sound good? Yes? Excellent. Yay, excellent. All right, the other reason why I want to identify as neurofabulous and as an I, we, is that I really feel like I want to acknowledge that the weird and wonderful, because that's who I really am, the weird and wonderful in me acknowledges the weird and wonderful in you, and however you choose to identify and show up. And that's what today's session is all about. So let's dive in. So when I get asked, what is a storyteller and how do I actually do that for a job? This is me. I am a speaker, as you can see today. I am a TV presenter. I'm the host of a TV show called Guide to Better Living on Sky TV. I am an actor, so I started training for that when I was 8 years of age. I'm a voiceover artist, so for anybody who is a gamer, if you ever played the game Far Cry 3, I actually played 11 of the characters in that game. It was awesome working with Xbox. I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. I am an educator. I ran my own performing arts school for 8 years in Wellington as well. And one of the jobs I really love, particularly in the business and the corporate world, is I'm a storytelling coach. And so I help people in the business realm come in and learn to really harness the power of their business story, and really tap into their identity. So that's kind of what I do. And I've had a huge background in doing that. In fact, I started professional training as a speaker and an actor when I was 8. I did my degree in theatre and film at Victoria University, so I'm a Wellingtonian. I also trained up to a teacher's level with New Zealand Speech Board and Trinity College of London in public speaking, and also in acting as well. I did my postgrad equivalent at Avalon Television Studios in film and TV production. I am also on the board of Professional Speakers Association of New Zealand, and I'm currently doing my master's in creative practice, and my focus is on storytelling, keynote speaking, and the topic of authenticity. So when Pamela approached me and asked me to come and speak today, this is totally in my wheelhouse. The work that I've done, however, in all of this training, and I consider myself a lifelong learner, is really about the understanding of character. And for me, my way of being able to understand and process the world starts with my observation of humans and understanding how they show up, and how they show up as their most authentic, trusted self. And it all comes back to our marvelous brains. You see, I know for a fact, and we heard in that last presentation, that our brains all work independently, differently, and beautifully. And when we become really conscious of how those brains work, we actually have the ability not just to talk verbally using our words, and non-verbally using our gestures and our facial expressions. We have the ability to talk and connect from brain to brain. And that's what we're going to experience this afternoon. I'm really, really excited. So we're going to do a brain break. I'm so excited by these because I'm quite dopamine driven, if that gives you a hint as to who I am. So we're going to try two things. First of all, if you are finding that you get a little bit tired at work, or that you're feeling like your energy is starting to flag, and I'm going to take my earpieces out so I can do this properly, I want you to take 2 of your fingers like this. And in the top of your ear, and I want you to do it with me, in the top of your ear, there's a bit of a nook or a ridge. So just underneath that ridge, I want you to take those 2 fingers and I want you to start rubbing circles in the top of your ears. So if you have to take one ear off to do it, do it. There we go, just rub. And what starts to happen is you'll either start to feel a yawn coming on, if you do it for long enough, or you'll start to want to gulp and gulp away saliva. Here it comes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Sometimes it can take 2 to 3 minutes for that to happen. Sometimes it can happen straight away if you're constantly doing it like I am and you're used to it. What that's actually doing is it's stimulating the vagus nerve between the brain and the gut. So if you are really feeling a bit fatigued, you can do a little thing like that to top up your energy or clear out that brain fog, or you can do something I learnt in theatre. So I'm going to teach you some theatre things as well today. If you take hands like this, and you go like that, that's the action, and bring your hands up. This is also a kinesiology practice. As you do it, inhale and let it go. Inhale, let it go. Inhale, let it go. Now that is what we call in theatre and in kinesiology an energy fountain. So if you know you've been doing something which is really exhausting at work or at home, either rub your ears, clear that brain fog, or you can do that energy fountain and you'll feel just that extra lift, which will give you that sustaining energy to keep on going. So throughout today, I'm going to give you a whole lot of exercises like that. And the other thing I'll need you to do is make sure that you have some paper handy. Hopefully you do. And I need you to have your phone handy because there'll be times this afternoon where I'm going to encourage you to screenshot what you see on the screen because this is going to form part of the game plan that you end up creating for yourself today. Right. So I think it's time because it's this time of the afternoon when we need a little bit of a laugh. And I thought I'd share with you one of the greatest life lessons I have ever learnt working in live TV. And this, again, starts to jump into that topic of authenticity. You see, being trained as an actor, of course, what do? My first job was in retail. And retail gave me a good understanding of characters, of humans and how humans behave. I then went on and was an educator. I ended up working in a bank. And then, of course, moving up here to Auckland, what could I do as an actor who was out of work? Become a magician. So I did that, and I was an educator specialising in early childhood. And then moving on, because I get bored quite easily, again, that gives you a bit of a hint as to how my brain works, I ended up moving into digital marketing because digital marketing is really a way of connecting stories out to a big group of people. So I started writing stories and doing content, and people were noticing the work I did. And I remember this one time, this guy I knew, he said, hey, look, I need somebody to take over the social media for this TV shopping channel. Do you think you could do that? Well, first of all, I love shopping, so I was super excited. TV shopping, I used to watch those people on television all the time. I used to study how Suzanne Paul did that voice and how they used their hands and the energy they bring. I was obsessed with it. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll jump in and I'll help out. I go into the meeting. And the producer was watching me. He was watching my vibrancy and how I show up and my passion for sales and my passion for people. And he said, are you interested in doing a camera test? Have you ever been on camera before? Now, by then, especially being an actor, I'd already been in 4 major feature films, 2 internationals, 2 national ones. I'd been in a whole bunch of TV commercials as well and done a whole lot of work. So this was kind of a dream come true for me. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do a camera test. Went in the next week. The week after, I was booked. So my whole career changed just by showing up as this bright, vibrant expression of myself. And I moved away from digital marketing, which was great. So I'm working in the studio. This is me. You can see this promo photo of me from a few years back. And I thought, you know what? This is my moment because it was live television across New Zealand and Australia. And it was my job to make the most boring product of all time come to life. And let me show you it. It's the Magic Tacker. That's right. The most boring product of all time. It looks a bit like a snail. It was a metal device that you could put little pins in, little tacks, and it was a mix of a wall stapler or a gun stapler with a hammer, and to be honest, it was quite boring. But oh, the things that you could do. You see, those tacks could actually hold 10 kilos each. So suddenly, when I was playing with it at home, I was able to put up my own bookshelves. That's right, using the Magic Tacker. And I even thought at one stage when I was writing my script for the channel, wow, if I put up 8 of those tacks on the wall, I could hang my neighbour up there. It was truly amazing because that's how my brain works. So I get to the stage where we're live on TV. I'm in a studio filled with light. This is my moment. And I thought, I'm going to absolutely nail this. Pun intended, by the way. I'm going to nail this. This is going to be amazing. And the crew had put up this false wall beside me, a big wall that was amazing. And this was my moment. I pretend this is the tacker. I picked up the tacker and I placed it on the wall and I lifted up my hand. And I thought, I'm going to show them my brute strength and how amazing I am. And I went to slam that tack into the wall, just thinking how cool I was, that I looked like one of Charlie's Angels or something like that. I go slam. And as I did, forgetting that it was a false wall, the whole wall vibrated. And every single piece of artwork that was already pre-mounted to the wall fell down on the ground in this chaotic symphony of carnage. And I thought that was the end of my career. So 3 things happened in that moment. I heard my producer in my ear going, oh my God. The second thing that happened was everybody in the studio all inhaled at the same time. They all went, sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And in that moment, I realized authentic, powerful me had to turn up. And she did. And I looked down the barrel of the lens like I'm doing right now. And I said, and that's what happens when you don't use the magic tacker. So that actually happened live on TV. And in that moment, my producer in my ear then went, oh, thank God. And then everybody in the studio exhaled and order was created back in the studio. So what was the life lesson that I learned from that awkward story in my career? The importance of showing up, the importance of rehearsing and practicing who I was. You see, that product, that great product, I lived with for a month. I tried it in every situation. I tested it. And I knew that even in a challenging situation, I could always rely on myself. I had unwavering faith in my ability to talk my way through every situation. And I did. And the great news was we sold a heap of magic tackers and actually had a lot of happy clients. So what I want to share with you today, before we jump into this question, is turning up. It's super important. A lot of people have come to me over the years because they feel like they can't turn up. So when they're wanting to become better storytellers to promote their business, or they're wanting to become better communicators in their workplace, they feel really disconnected from that. And that really hurts my brain, because all I know is how to be this and to show up with my best and brightest energy. So I want to know from you in the comments feed, what do you think is authenticity? How do you define it as a term? And then Pamela, I'd love for you to read out those responses for me so that I can hear. Share in the comments feed right now. What is authenticity? What do you think it is? Beautiful. Beautiful. Living according to your values. Absolutely. I love this. It can be transparent. It can be quite a challenging topic to answer, because it's almost like the concept of having to talk about authenticity. Does it make us feel a little bit less authentic? Actually, I challenge that. It actually makes us become really consciously aware of our presence, not being afraid to be yourself. I love that. Being honest with yourself and others. I love that. Some really great responses there. So not masking. That's right. I'm so happy today. There is no mask. In fact, that's how I honor myself and plan to live my entire life. So that's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, it is hard and awkward. I totally agree. I spent most of my early adulthood masking. So I total call that. Feeling content with the way I interact with and treat others. These are beautiful. I wish I was screenshotting this. Genuineness. This is beautiful. Yeah, that's right. Masking can be very exhausting. We're going to cover that today as well. So let's go and have a look quickly at what the definition is. And some of you have already highlighted it. Not false or imitation. Real. Being actual. Like an authentic Cockney accent. I didn't do that terribly well, but you get the idea. True to one's own personality, spirit, or character. When I read that description, that really resonated with me because, of course, I'm an actor. My job is to study character. And in fact, when I was doing the research around this topic, I leant on people like Brené Brown. Dr. Brené Brown studied human emotions. She's a great friend of Oprah's. She's done some of the best TED Talks. She says authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. I absolutely love that quote. Lance Secretan says authenticity is the alignment of head, mouth, heart, and feet, thinking, saying, feeling, and doing the same thing. It's about showing up as your best or most authentic self. And for some of my clients, they'll say, I want to walk the talk. And that's exactly what that alignment is. And the greatest influencer when it comes to authenticity, Dr. Seuss, who says there is no one alive who is youer than you. And I absolutely agree. So, my next question is, what qualifies me technically to speak about this topic? Well, great question, and we'll come back to the studio. Kia ora. For me, it is really understanding character, as I've said a number of times already. In my master's, what I'm actually studying is a beautiful interplay between text and subtext. Text being the words we say, and subtext being the intention or the tone or the emotion that's actually underneath it. And sometimes that's really hard to understand, which is why turning up authentically and understanding people and their greatness and their authenticity is a practice. It's something we do every day. You can see I've been a performer. I've done lots of different things, including being a children's entertainer. I worked on the film Eagle versus Shark. I was in Secondhand Wedding. And I've mentioned I was also in Avatar, and I was also in The Waterhorse, 2 international films there as well. So it really is that understanding of how words affect us and how those emotions and feelings affect us. And it's understanding the balance between that. So let me give you an example of some acting. So here we go. I'm going to draw on my acting skills. I am a tree. I'm a treat. And I'm joking. If you think about a show like Shortland Street, and this will give you a framework to understand these nuances of text and subtext and how they work together. If you've ever watched that show or any other show really, and you've seen an actor who goes, no, I'm fine. No, look, seriously, I'm fine. It's okay. There's something in our brain that intrinsically knows that actor is not fine. That's when the language, so the text and the tone or the intention and the energy are not in alignment. And it's actually that simple. And your job from today on, I've planted that in your conscious awareness. And your job is to consider when you see that happening in the people around you or the times that you do it. And we all do it. And they mentioned in the last presentation about people pleasers. I am a textbook people pleaser. Well, I was until I really started researching deeply into what all this means. Being a people pleaser and masking is exhausting. So my goal for you today is to look at congruence, where your words and your emotions align. And when they do, you actually appear as your most trusted and magnificent self. In fact, our brains do the work for us. So when we look at people around us, our brains are wired to detect that congruence. So as mentioned, the frontal lobe, which we saw in the last presentation, which processes the language, the limbic system deals with our emotions. But deep inside our brain is the amygdala. And this is what really got me. The amygdala is amazing. It's part of the caveman brain. And I want to call it my BS detector because it really does. It can detect whether you trust somebody or not based on the relationship between those two things, the text and the subtext. When they don't align, they're incongruent, we naturally go, oh, I'm not sure how I feel about that person. So becoming aware of that, even if understanding those feelings is a little bit of a challenge for you, the more that you practice it, the more that you become aware. And that's what today's exercise is really about for me. So there's a lot of talking going on, a million words inside my body, but I want to share this with you. Authenticity for me is showing up as to lean on my theatre background, the central character of your own life. It's about empowering you to write your own story on your terms. For me, it is a feeling. It feels right. It feels like you've landed, like you're home. It's about being consciously aware of who you are, what you stand for, which is some of the things you actually wrote in the comments feed. It's about knowing and owning your genius, which has nothing to do with IQ. It's about the superpowers that your magnificent brain brings to the world. And as I learnt from TV shopping, it's about having unwavering faith in your magic. So there you go. Today, we are going to create a game plan together. So this is really exciting. I'm going to share with you the basics of how I show up this energized all the time, this embodied, this unmasked, this excited about life, but also wanting to give to the world. I'm going to give you those frameworks today. And I'm passionate about the why. Why should we do this? Because being yourself is a whole lot more fun. I love that. Be yourself because an original is worth more than a copy. And I also love the fact too that I read in a happiness study, authentic, happy people in the workplace earn more money. So there you go. Who doesn't want that? Okay, we're going to have a quick brain break because I know there's a lot of talking going on, and I'm going to give you a bit of a fun exercise, which is also a bit of a reward for answering the following question. So first of all, in the comments feed, I want you to answer the question, what do you think is the biggest reason why people are scared to show up authentically in the workplace? So take a moment to answer what you think is the biggest reason why. Some good answers there already. Awesome. Fear of judgment, judgment from peers, judgment. It's loud in there. I hear you. It's loud in here too. Not being accepted. Oh, loud in the workplace, you mean? I hear you too. Yeah. Losing your job for not acting right. That's right. There's societal pressures around how we show up. Perceived norms. Yeah. Okay. Judgment, judgment, judgment. Not wanting to stand out. I honor that. I absolutely honor that. Cultural differences is a big one. Vulnerability to negative responses. Thank you all so much for sharing and being so present with that. Some excellent responses there. Well, to honor that and give you a little bit of a dopamine hit and a bit of an endorphin rush, I'm going to teach you a quick brain hack as well. This is kind of fun. So I want you to get your right hand before we jump into the answer. I want you to take your right hand. So on screen, it looks like I'm in reverse, but take your right hand and I want you to, with your right hand, draw the number 6 in the air. Draw the number 6. Excellent. I want you to all do it. So draw the number 6. It might be in reverse to what I'm doing. Draw the number 6. Excellent. Cool. Now put your hand down and I want you to take your right foot and just extend it slightly. And I want you to draw clockwise circles with your foot. Draw clockwise circles with your foot. Excellent. Do that a few times. Now hold your hand up in the air again and draw the number 6 with your right hand. Excellent. And one more time with your foot. Take your right foot and make clockwise circles with your foot. Excellent. Now I'd like you to try and do them together. Do you find that you end up correcting and you're doing the same thing with both? That's because your brain is looking for congruence. The brain can only do a certain amount of things and process a certain amount of data. And those were two conflicting exercises. It's an overload for your brain. It's quite funny. Try it on your friends if you're at a party or an event, or try it on your family. It's a really cool one to really demonstrate the importance of what our brains are seeking. So, do you think you got the answer to that question right? What is the number one fear of showing up as our authentic self? Here we go. It's the fear of judgment. You are absolutely right. And that judgment can come from a number of sources. It can actually be genetic. It can come down through our DNA. It can be cultural fears. It can be societal fears. It could be just judgment from friends. And a lot of that work actually happens when we're quite young. Those stories are actually implanted into our brains. We're like sponges when we're children. We take those stories on and we replay those stories so they become a belief about ourselves. A great example was I was working in Wellington a few weeks ago with somebody in an organisation, and I said to her, I'm talking about the topic of authenticity at home. How do you feel you show up? And she said to me, 95% of it, like I'm 95% there. I said, that's great because you've got 5% for you. I said to her, what about at work? How do you show up? And she went, probably about 60%. And I said, why do you think that is? And she said, I don't know. I've just always been like that. So we ended up having a discussion and talking about what I'm doing with my masters. And I said one of the exercises that I teach people is to remember who they were when they were about 6. And we explore that and look at what the common thread is between that age and who we are now and what that means. And she went, oh, I've got it. I said, what's happened? She said, I remember why I'm scared to show up. Because when I was 6, my brain first went to a story of me sitting in the playground at school, eating my lunch by myself. So it was that fear of being judged, of being isolated and disconnected. I did some processes with her. We thanked that story for protecting herself and from her brain. She moved on. I saw her 3 weeks later. She was present. She did the work. She found her way back to who she really is. And she realized that by bringing her authentic self to work, she was more productive, she added more value to her team, and she was having a whole lot more fun. So if that resonates with you, if you think there might be some stories going on that might be holding you back from really showing up, when you get a chance, have a think about it, address them, give yourself some love, support and encourage yourself, because look how amazing you are. Considering you may have had challenges in your life, you turned up today. In my eyes, you're an absolute winner. So I'm going to teach you some other things. First of all, my life lesson. When it comes to fear of judgment, other people's opinions are actually none of our business. See, the reality is, being a YouTuber as well, I have a lot of content on YouTube. I have been trolled and heckled for years. And I've realized one great thing about that is I'm a monetized YouTube partner. So the more that people comment, even if it's a heckle, I make more money. So I'm winning at life. So bring it on. I just choose not to read it. So again, disconnect yourself from that and start feeling into the expression of who you really are, because that's where we're moving with today. Okay, great. I want to ask you the next question. We have an understanding of what authenticity is, but what do you think authenticity is not? This is not a question that's commonly asked, and I'd love for you to put your comments in the comments feed. What do you think it is? Okay, it's a hard question to answer. It's not an excuse to say hurtful things. Yes. Oh, I love that. People pleasing. Absolutely. Oh, these are some great responses. Protection pleasing. Wow. Wow. Protection pleasing. That's a big one. That's a new one for me. I've never heard that term before. Thank you. It's quite a challenging question. Acting in a way you think others will respond well to. Yep. Totally agree, and I'll see if we've got one more response in there. And if you're not sure how to answer that question, write that down as a note for yourself, because then you'll become consciously aware of it. So I'm going to give you an example of a story, a real life story that happened to me, in fact. So like an actor, a good actor, as I said, I worked in retail and then I worked in a bank. So at that time of my life, I was in my mid-20s. I was working in Wellington. And I thought that being an actor and a presenter and a speaker couldn't be a full-time job. So I had that story in my head. So I thought I'll do acting at night and I'll get a growing-up job and do something proper. So I got this job in a bank thinking I'm in a customer service role. I get to talk to people, not realizing how much analytical work was involved, how much admin work was involved. And that stuff for my brain is really exhausting. So every day I would go to this job going, just hang in there. It's going to be okay, because you get to talk to people and that's what you're really good at. But 2/3 of my day was processing information or spending time behind a computer disappeared. And that's not where I'm energized. I was a square peg in a round hole. You've probably heard that phrase before, but it really was a struggle. There was so much resistance and I felt like I couldn't be who I really am. And the best way for you to feel this feeling that I had, is if you take one hand like this and you take your other hand like this. These are two opposing forces. Now push them against each other and keep pushing 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 and keep pushing. What's starting to happen? Are you noticing that your muscles are starting to fatigue? Are you getting the shakes? Yeah. And that's basically what happened to me. I got the wobbles. After 18 months of being a square peg in a round hole, I collapsed. I had massive adrenal fatigue. I had massive burnout. I left my growing up job. And I actually went to bed for 6 months, struggling with anxiety and depression. And it was really, really hard. I asked for help as well. And at the time, I couldn't really get a lot of help, unfortunately, because it was a really weird situation. And there weren't lots of talks at the time about neurodivergence other than naughty boys who were getting certain medication. I didn't know how my brain worked. I didn't even have the coping mechanisms to get myself out of bed. So what do? I'm a lifelong learner. I started researching things like how I felt. Instead of just being a mix of an introvert and an extrovert, which makes me an ambivert, I became an introvert. And I started trying to understand my character. So what I realized is that not being authentic is same as what you guys wrote actually in the feed. It's doing what you think you should do, even if it compromises your own beliefs or your feelings. Playing small. If you like to play small, play small. But if you like to play big like I do, play big. Play to your level. Playing the victim. I've done that too because I knew it would get me sympathy and attention, but that's exhausting. And of course, negative attention-seeking behavior, which if you're a parent with kids, you've probably seen some of that over the time as well. Okay, how are you feeling, everybody? You with me? Thumbs up? Everybody aware? Great, excellent, cool. So now you get the understanding of where I've come from and why I'm so passionate about this topic. It's important for us because we're still connecting from a brain-to-brain level to do something really brainy. So when we have a lot of information, and I know I'm saying a lot of words right now, when we need to defrag, and I know you guys are all part of the digital team, so I thought I'd use some digital language today. Here's a technique that I actually learnt from an FBI interrogator called Lance Burdett. What I want you to do is, first of all, I want you to think of a question, any question. You don't need to tell me in the chat. You can think of a question. It could be, why is the sky blue? What did I have for lunch today? You can think of a question easily. Now I want you to breathe in really deeply and sigh. Breathe in again and sigh. You're going to do it one more time. Breathe in and sigh. Now think of a question. Have you noticed your brain's a bit quieter? I hope so. I hope so. Mind blank. Excellent. That's what that technique is designed to do. So if you're at work, if there's a lot of words going on around you, like I'm sharing today, sigh. That's you basically resetting your own state. Which leads me into the next topic of state management. And this is super, super important. So me being, and I'm going to fully unmask now, absolutely unapologetically ADHD, I see the world as systems and constructs. I see the world in blocks. It's almost like I see the world like it's the matrix. And I see behavior the same way. I created the me model as a way to understand my own state. And now I use this model to help teach other people about theirs and what they're experiencing. So you can see on this axis, at the bottom, we've got ground zero. And then at the top, we've got growth, which is a space I like to play in quite a lot. On the left, we've got hard, and on the right, we've got easy. And I'm going to talk you through these 4 states so that you've got a way of understanding where you're at and a way of being able to look from your perspective at the people around you, looking at how they show up and what you can do to help them. So let's talk it through. Here we go. First of all, the me model. The 2 me's, which are the bottom left quadrant. This is where you might feel like life is happening to you. I had this when I went flatting for the first time. I had no coping mechanisms. By the way, I implore you to, if you've got your phone there, start to screenshot some of these statements coming through because this is going to be super important. You feel like life is a real struggle. You're at ground zero and life is hard. Common statements from me at this time when I was going through this stage. I can't seem to catch a break. Oh my goodness, everything's always going wrong. Why does life feel so overwhelming? that's how my life was. Now, if that's you, if that resonates with you authentically, if you know that you're in that quadrant or somebody else in your workplace is, here's how to shift that state, because I want you to have tangible things you can use straight away. Find a joy trigger. And a joy trigger is something I use. We often know the negative triggers in our life. A joy trigger is something that brings us joy. For me, I know every dog in the neighborhood and I pat them and I love them as if they were my own. And what it does is it actually activates my oxytocin in my brain, which is that social bonding chemical, makes me feel good. It activates the endorphins as I have a laugh, and it lifts my serotonin. So do something great for you. Do an energy fountain, which you've learnt today, or find some things to be grateful for. Now, if you're in a team environment, it's really important to be present with that person, provide emotional support, get them into a conversation, go for a coffee. But the greatest thing I can tell you with somebody who might be in this space, because it's really painful, it's that moment of absolute resistance to being who you are as well. Encourage them to seek help. That's really important. I've just done this with a client just recently, and the transformation in just a couple of days has been phenomenal. The next state, which is on the bottom right-hand corner. So things are a little bit easier, but you're still at ground zero. I've been through this state in my 30s when I was having my early midlife crisis. In this state, you might feel like things kind of happen for you. So you might have some good income coming in, but you're kind of in that groundhog day. It's that repetitive loop where you kind of don't feel that fulfilled, or things are a bit monotonous. And you can tell this in another person because you'll hear them saying, I'm just going through the motions. I hear this all the time from people. I've been here myself. A way to help yourself shift from that state, or someone else. First of all, if it's you, write a list of things that excite you. We're going to actually talk about that today too. Do one thing on that list. It is that simple. This is not rocket science at all. And if it's someone else, take them out for a coffee and tell them about their hobbies or what their real passions are. And one of the greatest things I got a client to do was actually go and do some volunteer work, collecting money for the Cancer Foundation. And it was utterly fulfilling for her. The next stage is in the me model. The top left-hand corner, I see this a lot with leaders. They are in the by me state. Now, I've been in this state a lot of my life. I am a driver. I'm a type A personality. I get things done, and I often find I have to get it done. It has to be done right, and it can only be done by me. I really suck at delegating, to be fair. But I'm also prone to burnout. So that's one of the downsides. These people are high achievers, but if they don't manage their stress, a lot of things can go wrong. So to deal with that, it's really important to shift out of that state by finding balance. I love driving, going for a drive by the ocean. I love it. I listen to brown noise, and that's a really important thing too. Brown noise is great. You can look at it on YouTube or Spotify. Go for a walk. Watch comedy. I watch a lot of comedy. And if it's someone in your team, obviously delegation is really, really important. If it's a team leader, open up a conversation and ask them from your authentic state, hey, how can I help? Really simple practices. And this helps move people through to the all amazing through me state. Now, we heard in the last presentation about flow state. This is really that state as well. It's about showing up who you are, having confidence in yourself, that you are calm. And the great thing is your state affects everybody playing other characters around you too. Here's the common things that I hear them say and that I've said myself. And this is the one screen I urge you to screenshot. Life seems to flow effortlessly, but these people are all still learning. They know that they don't know anything. They're open to growth. They accept the challenges and they want to grow. I feel at peace and harmony with myself and the world, or I trust in my abilities to navigate any situation with grace and confidence. Now, those final two statements are laced with neuro-linguistic programming phrases and systems that actually help rewire your brain. If you start using that, if you feel like life's a bit out of control, start using that every day and you'll actually find your way back to a calmer state. So that is the me model, and it's really helping you navigate where you're at, where your state is, and how you can move back into a space of growing, of excitement and passion. So there you go. Thumbs up, everybody. Got it? Taken some notes? Excellent. Great. That's what I like to see. Okay, now I mentioned that today we're going to create a game plan, and really, I want to introduce you to two of the biggest mentors that I've had in my life. So you're going to need some paper ready, and you're going to need your cell phone handy as well if you haven't got it ready. So these are my two mentors, my mum and dad. My father was actually a transformational coach back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He helped transform people's minds through the power of language. And I still remember being about 4, and he booked out Johnsonville Community Centre in Wellington, and he had hundreds of people turn up to listen to his words. And what he did through that process was he would allow people the space to unmask, to be themselves, and to reflect and understand who they are. What are their tolerances? What excites them? What exhausts them? And how do they want to create the life that they feel they were really here to live? How do they want to show up as their best character? And so my father always said something really powerful. He always said, Monique, remember the basics. Now, when you're quite young, it's really hard to understand what that means. But being ADHD, I love to create systems. So like every good keynote speaker, I created an acronym, which is the basis of your game plan today. So first of all, the letter B stands for boundaries. Boundaries are notoriously hard to put into place because often we think it's just what I'm going to say no to. You can see here that boundaries are essential to protect your emotional and mental well-being, helping you establish your limits and also respecting yourself. Here's how I like to approach boundaries. And I've got my own paper here. Excuse my writing. I'm very excited about this. I approach boundaries from two ways of thinking. What energizes you? So write this down on your paper. And what exhausts you? And look, here's the crazy thing. Do less of that if you can and do more of that. You see, when people say it's what I say no to, actually, setting boundaries is a bit of a sliding scale based on the energy we have and how we show up. So when you focus more on the things that energize you and the things that exhaust you, you know you're going to lean towards doing more of those energetic things, but they'll enable you to also achieve those things that are hard. That's what I've learned. They say, I learned in corporate, you should eat the frog, right? You know, do the hard things first. Actually, if I do one thing that energizes me first, I am far more productive with the things that do not energize me. Another way to approach your boundaries is to write what I call a don't like list. So you can approach this from whichever way feels right for you. Then create a column next to it, which is the polar opposite. Those are actually connected to your authentic self. It's a really simple way to understand boundaries. This world here, the opposite of your don't like list, is what your natural, authentic self is actually craving. It's who you are. So that's a really simple way to approach setting boundaries. And that is your homework for the next few weeks because we're not going to get everything done today. This is an ongoing process. In fact, being your authentic self is a lifelong dedicated practice. Right, let's have a look at the next screen, which I want to show you. I'm so excited about this. The next thing is acceptance. That's the letter A. And acceptance is really important because it's about understanding your limits. It's understanding your strengths and your imperfections. You'll notice I didn't use the word weaknesses. Weaknesses are really hard to deal with. However, when it comes to acceptance, having unwavering faith in yourself and being able to back yourself in a stressful situation means you know your strengths, you know your challenges. And challenges, if you remember in the me model, that's about growth. We rise to the challenge. So no longer do we use the word weakness. We use the word challenge. It just means you haven't achieved it yet. Okay, so that's the next one. Let me show you the next screen. So this is part of your framework. Okay, the next is the letter S, and S stands for self-discovery. So engaging in self-discovery helps you explore those passions, values, and beliefs. And that's really part of the core of who you really are. So what you need to do is grab on your piece of paper, you're going to make 3 columns. And again, this is your homework. And you are going to write topics under here. And sometimes some of the people I do this with, they will actually use Post-it notes in each category because Post-its give us lots of color, passions, values, and beliefs. And sometimes these are really hard to define. What am I passionate about? Talking, obviously. Talking, fun, I'm passionate about communication. I should put that actually. Communication. I'm passionate about helping people be authentic. So this starts to give you an idea of who you really are. My values: fun, play, connection. All of these words are super important. Now, beliefs. I mentioned this earlier. Beliefs are simply stories that we've continued to tell ourselves over and over again. They may not even be true. So when you go to try something new, when you're in that challenge, overcoming that challenge and moving into that growth phase, if you find a story comes up and you're going, oh, hang on, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this my own story? Is this my own belief? How does it work for me? And if it's not your story, the best way to deal with that is to accept your magnificence. And after all of those old beliefs that come through, I want you to kick them in the butt by writing, I am enough. That is one of the most powerful I am phrases of all times. Okay, moving into the next screen. And this is for you. This is part of your framework. This is about intentionality. This is moving into that stage, knowing that you are enough and being able to really establish that in the place around you. So the way that I've been able to do this, to show up, is to know that based on my beliefs, based on and how I've dealt with them, based on my passions and my values, I actually know how to express myself. I have unwavering faith in myself. I've done the time in personal development. And in fact, this practice I'm going to show you right now is one of the best. We already wrote, I am enough. I want you to consider writing 10 more I am statements. And it might be things like, I am fun. And look, chances are, if you're working in the team that you're working in, you are clever. I think I'm hilarious. I am a great friend. I want you to really dig in and start creating those I am statements because they're really important for the next stage in your game plan, which I'll show you. The letter C, courage and consistency. Now, this also stands for the word commitment. It's about being able to go, I am amazing. I am energetic. I am smart. I am strong. And being able to own that space and having the courage to join what I call the 955 Club. So your goal here, and hopefully you can see, we'll flick to the whiteboard here. You can see here's my phone. What I've actually done, you can see there's the Teams link right there, is I actually have my I am statements locked away to go off just before 10 o'clock every day. So at 9:55, I am energetic. What this does is every time that it goes off, it triggers that message for me. I think I have one in there that goes off that says, I am amazing. Why at 9:55? Usually we have a 10 a.m. meeting or we're going on a break. So this is a system that I put in place for myself to remind myself of my state and how I'm going to show up. So that takes courage and consistency. So that's about implementing those I am statements into a tangible form that will actually long term start to rewire your thinking. And soon enough, you'll go, actually, you know what? I am amazing. And that's how you'll show up. And that practice that you've put in will become effortless. Everything will happen through you. Finally, we all know about a work in progress in work. Your goal from now on, from here on in today, is to do a self-reflection work in progress. So I want you to spend time every week checking in with yourself or with others, going, hey, how's your state? How are you feeling? How are you showing up today? How do you identify? And you may not have all the answers at the beginning because this work takes time. But you know what? You're worth it. So those, my friends, are the basics: boundaries, acceptance, self-discovery, intentionality, courage, consistency. As we know, it's also commitment and cell phone, and also self-reflection. This is my daily practice, and this is what enables me to show up unapologetically neurofabulous every single day. And I love it. I have such a fun life, and I get to talk to people all around the world doing what I'm doing. And it enables me to give my gift of having a million words inside my body to everyone else. And speaking of gifts, I've actually prepared a booklet for you. This is a workbook. And what I want you to do is, if you've got your cell phone there, scan that QR code and it will take you through to the download I've created called Show Up. It's about uncovering your authentic self. It's a workbook, but it's also an adult coloring book. So for any of you who know that mindfulness practice and adult coloring are an amazing thing, this is my gift to you. I've been through the entire process, and when you come out at the end, you have an incredible conscious awareness of your authentic self and your identity. So that's my gift. And I'll also send the link to Pamela so that she can share that with everybody as well. So finally, my second mentor. And I thought I'd finish up with a little bit of a story. See, my mum is super cool. She's still in Wellington. She teaches actually out in Porirua. She is the most amazing, vibrant human that I know. She's brilliant. Her name's Helena. But she wasn't always amazing and vibrant. And this is me when I was about 4 years of age. And she had a really interesting life. She didn't really know her identity. So she grew up in a Māori pa in Blenheim. And she grew up in a time where being mixed race was unacceptable. So she had racism towards her from her Pākehā side, and she had racism coming at her from her Māori side, because her mum was Pākehā and her dad, Haere, was Māori. Now, this was a time when Haere couldn't even use his own name. He had to be renamed Hale, as an example. So it was a really tough time for her. And she never grew up understanding her te ao Māori part of her. She grew up te ao Pākehā. And it wasn't until I was this age, the image that you see me on the screen, I was about 4.5, 5, that she decided, I don't feel like I'm showing up as myself. So what am I going to do about it? So she decided to connect with the local marae in Wellington. And she started learning some of the tikanga and the language, and she started learning to weave flax. And I remember her taking me out to harvest the flax. And she said, come on, we'll go over to this flax bush. And she started cutting the flax. And I said, oh, but Helena, that's the older, darker flax. Why don't we get the flax that's in the middle, the beautiful, bright, vibrant green flax? And she said, no, no, no. That is the rito. That is the heart of the flax bush. And we need to honour and protect the rito, because it's from there that the rest of the flax bush will grow and thrive. And I took that on board, being a 5-year-old, and it's only now, as a consciously present adult, exploring my identity and what it means to be neurofabulous, that I understand the importance of that statement, the wisdom that was behind it. You see, often in life, we forget to connect to our own rito. My ancestors have known about this for centuries, but somehow we've disconnected, whether through societal or cultural challenges, whether we have that fear of judgment or showing up as our neuro-brilliant and amazing selves. We are super disconnected. And so my mum wants you to know that it is important to honour the rito always, and that framework is a conscious framework to connect you back exactly to the rito. Because when we honour and nurture the rito, we then enable the rest of us in that world around us to thrive and grow. And all of that goodness inside us will weave through into every factor of our beautiful, authentic lives. So that's a message from my mum to you. Honour the rito always. And to finish up today, I want to thank you so much. I want to implore you to be present always, to show up unapologetically with unwavering faith as you, to do the work, to remember it's a daily practice, and to honour the rito. So here we go. That's the end of it. I hope you get some joy from that. I hope you had some great awarenesses. I hope you feel present. We've done a lot of brain work today, and I'm really proud of you for sticking on in there. I am Monique Bradley. And to finish up, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora.